Hello, family, friends, and fellow country uh, men and women, or types of men and women, female and male type people. I say that. I'm actually heisting that from a very dear old friend who's long passed away, but I worked with him for a couple of years at Philadelphia Community College. His name was Carl Quant. And he probably had more of an impact on me from a professional uh, direction or professional, what would you want to call it, influence. I'm trying to think who had more of an impact on me, or as much of an impact. Mike Loudon, working at Bell Atlantic, he was my supervisor there. What a fantastic. How many supervisors can I say that about that I've had in my life? One? Mike Loudon. Uh, Rich Stampone was good too. Hey, Rich, I hope you see this, and I appreciated your point or your approach. And you were only my supervisor for a couple of months, I think, before Ted Hendricks, uh, Ted Bendricks over backwards to kiss anybody's ass. You know that guy? Or was it John Lucas? Oh God! Oh my God! He might have been the worst. Well, nah, there was one or two people who were worse than him. But anyway, okay. So I want to tell a story, and I'm going to tell you at the outset that this is probably going to be kind of long because I'm telling a story about what I believe was a miracle that happened to me and a gift from God. And I think that God rewarded me for having initiative and being proactive about finding a way to stabilize my life at 46 years old. Big change of career at 46 years old. I went from being a photographer to working two full-time minimum wage jobs with no benefits at 46. And I've been a photographer at that point for about 18, 19, 20 years, right, really 20 years professionally. I got married. My career started around 1987 or 1977, and so it's 1997 when I'm 46. 1977, I'm like 26, I think. Yeah, right. So 20 years, and bad choice of professions, and just to give you an idea, there, Pennsylvania unemployment/employment website where you can go to find all kinds of opportunities. They study, they do a lot of studies. I'll say that for the government. I mean, that's something that you want to be aware of that resource. And I know that like in the early, when was it? No, in the mid 80s. After I got married in 84, so 85, 86, 87, something like that. Probably 87 because I had a real crash and burn opportunity in '87 that would have catapulted me to an amazing level of the photography career, and it crashed and burned. It was unbelievable. But anyway, I won't go into that. So, my career was like 20 years, and in 1997, crash and burn as far as my professional direction. So Carl Quant, he was just good at telling or organization, which is my biggest challenge. We worked together in the equipment room down at Community College of Philadelphia, and he was just retired from the Navy. And he needed a job to do what he liked to do, and he was a really good photographer, knew a lot about it. And, darkroom chemicals and equipment maintenance and that kind of thing. But organization, one of the things he taught me was get everything off the floor. It was a real small room too with all this camera equipment. And he said, we're not going to leave anything on the floor. Yeah, and he would remind me of if he saw something on the floor, he says, you got to get everything off the floor. And he was right. And I grasp that to this day. But he had another, he had another way of describing or, describing somebody, I guess, he would call a person a type of person. So, I can't even remember how he used the expression, but I remember I've used it frequently since then, and I Facebooked a former girlfriend from a long time ago. We've managed to stay in touch for a little while, and we hadn't been in touch. And then I found her on Facebook through her brother, who I knew very well, and this girl changed my life. She was really important in my life story, very important. I met her when I was 23 years old. Her name was Stacy, and just a wonderful human being. Hooked up with her, or found her on Facebook many years later, and it was just recently, like 2013, 14, something like that. And so, she asked me what I was doing, or, what my situation was, and I told her that I was living with a female-type person, which was Carl Quant's way of describing it. Oh, yeah, you're a female-type person. Oh, you're a male-type person. Oh, you're a Philadelphia-type person. Oh, you're a Kensington-type person. Oh, you're a New Jersey-type person. So I said, a female, I'm living with a female-type person. And Stacy got back to me and says, well, what is that? What's a female-type person? I'm thinking in the back of her mind, she's thinking somebody gay. And I just texted her back. I said, oh, that's a woman. And she laughed. She got back to me and said, oh, I've been laughing for the last 10 minutes about that one. Yeah, and I remember you always making me laugh. And I hope that's true, because, in the end, when we leave this world, all that really matters is the effect that we've had on other people. And that's true. Are you leaving this world, have you done anything during your life to make life better for somebody else? Because if you haven't, then your presence and your life is kind of a waste. I mean, you can make lots of money, but if you don't make somebody else smile or laugh, or just do something to improve their living experience, what good are you? And that's profound. That came out in the Charles Dickens story of A Tale of Two Cities. Man, wow, what a powerful freaking story that is. It blows me away. So many things about it. And this guy is in love with this girl in this story. The Tale of Two Cities is London and Paris. And it's at the French Revolution, too. And this guy falls in love with this girl, but she marries somebody else. And it's a guy from Paris. And they're in England when they get married. But then the guy, her husband finds out that one of his devoted servants is going to be executed in Paris, French Revolution. If you hiccup the wrong way, or, you look at somebody the wrong way, they can call you out and have you, go to the guillotine. And the servant sent a message to the husband and said, please help me. And so he goes to Paris, and he gets, just because he had royal lineage, which, they were contemptuous of anything connected to royalty. They threw him in jail and scheduled him for execution. Well, the guy that was originally in love was a lawyer, and was originally in love with this guy's wife, Lucy is her name. He goes to Paris, and he pays off the jailer to help him substitute himself for his true love, the woman that he loves, for her husband, and gets him out and substitutes himself to go to the guillotine. Now, if that isn't true love, then it doesn't exist. True love does not exist. If that's not true love, what an act of compassion and love. It was an act of love, because he wouldn't have done this for the guy if it wasn't, for him being in love with his wife. So yeah, regardless of who you are and what your what race you belong to, or your status or your wealth or lack of wealth, really everything comes down to is while you're here, did you improve anybody else's situation? And if you didn't do that at all, for the time that you were in this life and on this planet, what's the point? So anyway, I have a story to tell, and I don't blame you if you just cut out. I put this on YouTube just so you know. Not a lot of my videos on YouTube don't get a lot of traction, and I'm okay with it, to tell you the truth. I'm not doing a story on YouTube to make any money or hope that there's people put likes in there or anything. I'm doing it just to put out compelling stories. What I hope to be compelling stories. Some have gotten traction, most of them have not. But I want to be able to see my presentation on a large screen television, which is right behind me there. And the only way I can do that is put it on YouTube, because I can't broadcast. I can broadcast to the television from YouTube, but I cannot broadcast from my photo inventory, or from my video inventory from the phone. You have to have some kind of Apple arrangement plugged into the television, and that's like $200 to $300. I just put it on YouTube, and I look at myself there and try to improve. So, don't worry about liking it or not liking it or number of views. It doesn't really matter to me, not at this point. I'm 71, and my life really took a turn in 1984. I got married. So at that point, I'm 33. 81, 82, 83. Yeah, 84. So I'm 33 years old when I get married. Very attractive woman. But I guess we were both, when you wait till 33 and you go through your 20s and you're single and having fun, you might tend to party a little bit too much, and we were both from that area of life. So the recipe for disaster was already there. But she gets pregnant with our daughter, beautiful daughter, absolutely gorgeous. I did a video about the traumatic aspect of her birth. And then in 87 we have a son, and in 90 we have another son. And by the time our third child and our second son came along, the marriage was in trouble. Partly indeed because of my struggle to get my photography business going up to the level where I could support the family just on my photography career. But up until that time, I'd have to do all kinds of odd jobs, second jobs, third jobs, for extra money. I drove a limousine. I worked at a telemarketing outfit in Westchester for a little while. That was a nighttime job, night hours. What else did I do? Well, I chased ambulances. Well, really, the main thing I did was to, look for targets to do aerial photography. 1989, I got my pilot's license. 1990, 91, and 92, our situation, the marriage, and this is after my third child, my second son, was born. He was born in 1990, and beginning of 1993, January 7th, 1993, my divorce happened. And it was difficult, but I got through that year. It was an incredibly powerful depression, man. I didn't know the extent of a depression and how far down and how much it can change you. Oh, geez. I mean, it yanks you around, and it forces you in a different direction. I'm talking about depression now, and I had no idea. I read a lot about it, I had no idea. So I got through 93 somehow. I don't know how. A lot of weight loss. I went from like between 190 and 200 pounds to 153 pounds. That's, what, 25%? Yeah, that's 25% weight loss. 153, and I look cadaverous. My sister told me, yeah, you look like a dead person. Thank you very much. Anyway, got through 93. The divorce is final. The kids were living with their mother, and I was in up to my neck in difficulty in finding a place to live. I'm not going to go into that. That's another miracle. I've had several miracles. Well, by miracle, I mean I think there was a divine intervention by a deity. And that's another discussion altogether too, the belief in God and all that. And, excuse me. The miracle I want to talk about was the career I found in 1997. And I just want to establish a context because it makes all the difference, okay? So 93, the divorce. 94, I'm actually dating a wonderful person. Laura Slap Shelton, and I mentioned her in another video, and she was perfect for me. She was just perfect. She was a psychologist, a PhD psychologist, so Dr. Slap Shelton. Really good writer, very pretty, really, really pretty. She had a daughter, and she had lost her husband to a tragic aortic aneurysm a couple years before. And she went through a lot of grieving, I know, and then she was to the point where, she wanted to meet somebody, and, we connected through a mutual friend. But towards the end of '94, it was clear that it wasn't going to work. Primarily, from my side, was I just came through a nightmare divorce that I just couldn't believe how I was affected by the divorce, how emotionally destructive it was. And I mean to tell you, man, it's bizarre. And so, even though I thought that she and I were perfect for each other, I couldn't go through with a marriage at that time. I couldn't do it. And tell you the truth, I never could do it. But if I was going to marry somebody, she would have been the one for sure. She was, on top of those other good attributes of her, she had a great sense of humor, man. We laughed, at least I feel like we laughed a good amount, and to confirm that, you have to talk to her. And I haven't talked to her since then, since the end of '94. So anyway, I'm wrapped up in trying to figure out how I'm going to pay child support myself, in 1994. Support myself, pay child support myself, and grow my business. So when I was so ignorant, man. If you're going to do a business, you got to have a business plan. You must put together a business plan, and if you don't know how to do that, there's free advice, free consultation available at Chester County Department of Commerce. They have offices around with retired executives that will throw it right in with you and help you get a business plan together. And I never did that, and that's the kiss of death. Businesses don't last very long anyway. If you go into having a business without a business plan, very likely you're going to fail. And so I'd been in business at that point. Technically, I mean, I filed for a fictitious name in 1983, 82, 83, something like that. So technically, I'd been in business. Okay, so we're talking about '97 now. So 83, 93 plus 4, so 14 years. And is that right? No. Anyway, 83 to '93 is 10 years, so another 14 years. But I was struggling, man. And in 1987, I had an opportunity to lock in a high money client, and it crashed and burned. So, after that, I'm struggling and bumping along. I started doing weddings then too, when I realized my commercially, if you have a commercial client instead of like private client, like a wedding is somebody taking their money out of their own pocket and paying you, whereas commercial clients, it's a business and they're paying you to do something for their business. That's the way to go with commercial clients. But after I lost this big one in 1987, I decided I got to start doing weddings because I needed cash. And we get the divorce, and then so '94. Laura comes into my life, but then by, I don't know, August, September, we're toast, we're history. And that wasn't as depressing as my marriage, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad because I kind of felt, I knew that we would be good together. I just couldn't take the leap. I just couldn't do it. And so I start working at UPS. Now remember, 94. How old am I? 42. I'm 42. Right. So 94. Yeah. So I started UPS in '94, and I'm 43 years old. Excuse me, 43. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 43. So I go to UPS, and I'm going there because I don't have any medical insurance, and it would be soon to be that my children would have no medical insurance either after their mother got fired from her job. But that would come later. But I had no medical insurance. That's a scary thing, not having medical insurance. So UPS would hire you to do the most physically difficult job on the planet. Okay, and I know that's true. I've done a lot of observations, and I know this shift at UPS from 3 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 hours straight, no breaks, $10 an hour, where you have to be able to lift a box that weighs up to 70 pounds over your shoulders and onto a conveyor belt every 3 to 5 seconds. Try doing that once. Boy, I tell you what. And so we go to the first media, or the first collection of their new group of employees at UPS. There was a room, there were about 14 of us in this room, and this one guy from UPS comes in and talks to us. He says something like, he's looking at us and he goes, well, I know one thing from experience, that there's 14 people here, and at least 2 to 5 of you are going to leave after the first 10 or 15 minutes on the job. This is his pep talk, right? And I thought, wow, this job, I wonder what it's like. Is it that tough? I don't know, because I've been kind of in shape my whole life. And, people look around at each other and, okay, what else? And he told us more about it, but he was right, man. There were people that were 3 o'clock in the friggin' morning, and you go into this place, and it's freezing cold in there, but once you start working out with all these packages, you forget about the temperature to a point, Very, very difficult job, physically speaking. And I figured, this is temporary for me. Everybody there had their own business, too, on that shift, because if you have your own business, the health insurance was ridiculous, like $2,000 a month or something like that, just for health insurance. Who can afford that? I don't know. Some people can't. But anyway, so I get in there and I start working during the peak season in 1994, like October, and that's the Christmas season. And I was blown away how hard it was, and then how the hours extended into the Christmas season. So instead of 3 to 8, they would tell you to come in at 2:30. Then they would tell you to come in at 2 o'clock, and it was like, is this for real? When my alarm went off at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was thinking, this has got to be an alternate reality. I got to go back to sleep and wake up somewhere else, So I'm at UPS, and I get through the first year. So it's 94 Christmas, and that's, that was, like a 4-month stint. And then 95. But my goals are not any closer to being attained, and I'm getting older, so 42, 43, 95. Wait a minute. 95, I'm 44. 96, I'm 45. The end of 96 and the very beginning of 1997, I won't tell you why. Well, I will tell you why. It was age discrimination. I was ridiculed because of my age. It got to be constant and every day because I was the oldest guy working this shift. Most of the people in this shift were students from Westchester University and anybody else that had their own business, landscapers, machinists, working out of their garage, you name it. So day one of 1997, I walk off the job after hearing so much criticism about my age, and they didn't do anything about it. And I walked off the job. They told me to stop by HR. I did. They said, well, you're a great employee. We don't want to lose you. We'll put you in another division. I said, that's not the solution. The solution is the violation of my rights by being criticized for my age. They said, well, nobody would confirm that. I said, of course not. Nobody's going to be a rat. Nobody's going to do that. Anyway, so I just walked off the job there. But I knew where to go. Intermedia Marketing in Westchester was a telemarketer, but their number one client was Vanguard Securities. And at 8 o'clock in the evening, Vanguard agents would log off, and all the calls that would go to Vanguard from all over the world would come to Intermedia Marketing in Westchester. I'd worked for them sometime in the 80s, I forget when. I knew of them, and I needed to get something fast. So I just went over there and they hired me right away. My shift was 7 o'clock in the evening to 10:30 in the evening, so 3.5 hours. The only thing is, the UPS job put more cash than that into my pocket, and this 3.5 hours, between 15 and 20 hours a week at minimum wage wasn't going to do it for me. And so I had to get another minimum wage job. I drove a car. I drove a courtesy shuttle for Saturn dealership in Westchester, and that was from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, and that kind of worked, because I had intermedia marketing at night, 7 to 10:30. I had Saturn driving from 7 to 3 o'clock. I could go home after 3 o'clock, get a cat nap, get a bite to eat, maybe a little bit of sleep, a little bit more sleep, and relax, and then at 7 o'clock go into intermedia marketing, which was a ton easier. Both these jobs, leaving UPS was a difficult thing, but it wasn't going anywhere, and it was just getting worse and worse. So now I've got no medical insurance. I'm working 2 minimum wage jobs, no benefits. One's part-time, the other one's full-time. I'm 46 years old. I'm soon to be 46 years old. I said, this is not going in a good direction for me, but I had to change. Now, keep that in mind, man. And it was just an epiphanal moment where I've been here 2 years and I wasn't going anywhere. And if you look around and you see that happening to yourself, get out, man. Change directions. And that's what I did on a moment's notice, too. So I'm working at Saturn, driving a courtesy shuttle. I'm working at night for a telemarketing company, and I'm barely making enough for child support, for my rent. The rent's my living situation is another story, but the rent and my credit card debt, which hit $46,000, and that's insane. Okay, for my situation, $46,000 in credit card debt. It was awful, but I finally got enough together to pay for everything month after month. Minimum wage or minimum payments on the credit card. On the credit cards. But I'm looking, okay? I'm looking for something to, revive my photography/videography career. I say videography because I started offering video at my weddings, hoping to increase the business, right? And it was well received, but I just didn't have enough weddings to make a go of it. But I gave myself, I had already had video experience from a previous job, and I understood the equipment, the VHS, the cameras, what can go wrong, that kind of thing. So, but I'm looking every day. I'm at Saturn. I'm looking. They put the papers. They put the Wall Street Journal and the Westchester Daily Local in the break area, and I'd read through the classifieds on the Daily Local. They had the best classifieds. Looking for something that I could do along the lines of my chosen profession, photography, videography. So, January, February, March, April, May. So May 19th, a Monday, 1997. I look in the classifieds of the Daily Local at the Saturn job, and right at the end of the professional technical services, there's an ad for a videographer in bold letters, videographer for legal depositions, and it's part-time, but it's a videographer. That's my wheelhouse, man. I just know that business. I know the audio piece of it, connecting the microphones, making sure that because if you're doing a wedding, you only get one chance to shoot. So I knew how to get things first time around. It turns out that's what this company was looking for. Somebody that could work on their own without supervision. I said, I'm your man. Hire me right now. When I got the interview. And they said, no, we're going to decide next week. And that was May 19th. So the upcoming weekend was Memorial Day. And each day that went by, the stress on getting this job, it's a part-time job for $15 an hour, but it became more and more obvious to me that there was a lot riding on this. So I did a power play. I decided I'm going to do everything possible to get this job. So 2 days after the interview, I called them. I said, hey, don't you want to hire me now? I could start taking care of this thing for you right away. And they said, no, we're going to wait till next week, which is through the Memorial Day holiday, which was an awful one for me. And my birthday was right there. I turned 46 over the Memorial Day holiday there. And so the Tuesday after that Monday of Memorial was May 27th, 97, and I decided I'm calling them back. And the guy was nice. He says, yeah, we like your work, but we're still looking at other candidates. So we'll decide by the end of the week. And it was driving me crazy by this time, because everything was riding on me getting this job. So the next day was a Wednesday. It was everything I could muster not to call them. And then the Thursday, the 29th, which is my oldest son's birthday, I'm checking my voicemail, at Bell Atlantic. I'm checking it. Nothing. No word from this videographer job. So finally, by the end of the day at Saturn, which is 3 o'clock, I decided I can't go through another weekend without knowing. And so I called, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, we like you, we like your work, but we hired somebody else, and that's final. Goodbye and good luck." Click. And it's a stunning moment, it's a shocking moment. People say, "Oh, you must have been devastated." I was like, not so much devastation as, directionless, or, like not having a rudder on my ship. I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to do? What in the hell am I going to do now? I'm going to have to do something. I wander out to my car. I get in the car, and I'm looking up at the sky through the windshield, and 3 things hit me. 3 ideas hit my thoughts, and just entered my brain. Number 1, God's decided that I'm going to be poor my whole life, and that I'm probably going to be buried in an unmarked grave like my famous baseball grandfather in St. Louis. Won the World Series with the Pirates and played in the World Series with the Phillies. He's buried in an unmarked grave in St. Louis. I said, well, that's me. And I didn't care about it. It didn't mean anything to me because I'm not dead yet. And, after I die, my body's somebody else's problem. I'm not really concerned about that. And that if I'm going to be poor, hey, that doesn't keep me from working. I'll keep working because I'm not letting my children down, period. And that was my second thought. I'm not going to let my children down because of this. I've got to, stay in the hunt and in the game on their behalf, and also on my behalf, too. I mean, I wanted success bad. I wanted it bad. And it just kept eluding me. So, and then third thought, and this was the big one, I'm finished with photography. And that's a big decision at that point. But when I made it right there in the car, it was like this load had been lifted off of me. It was amazing. It's like, that's over. Running to the mailbox every day to see if there's a check and a signed contract so I can pay my bills that month, that's over. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And I thought about, the one thing about the intermedia marketing job that I neglected to mention was that, and even starting as early as January, now we're going back 5 months, they'd come around at nighttime around 9 o'clock and ask anybody if they wanted to work the graveyard shift with this guy Steve Tudor, and that was a data entry. That's all you would do. So at 10 o'clock, if I was going to take that position, at 10 o'clock I'd sign off, or 9:30, they'd take me off the Vanguard calls and put me on data entry to 2:30 in the morning. So that makes that a full-time job. Minimum wage, no benefits. When I asked them, I said, hey, do I get any more money for working the graveyard? They said, no, you'll never make any more money. We just need somebody to start working this shift with Steve. And I turned them down because, I was used to making more money than that when I put out this much effort. But at this point, my efforts towards photography were through. They were over. I left the Yellow Pages ad in, but basically I'm done. It was a wonderful moment, too, for me, even though I'm stuck in poverty. And I decide right then and there, I'm going to take that graveyard job at Intermedia Marketing. So that night, they tried to send me home, when my shift was over. I said, I want to stay and work the graveyard. And they said, well, that's 2:30 in the morning. I said, yeah, I know. And it's only minimum wage. I said, I know that. Because I'm going home to a dark and empty house anyway. What's the point? I may as well stay here at 2:30 in the morning, make some money. I know I'll get some good sleep when I go home. So I start working the graveyard with Steve Tudor. And Steve Tudor is this gay guy that wore this crazy toupee. He was a chain smoker, but I got along with him beautifully. And it was such a relief. It was such a relaxing thing to work with him. And this whole chain of events ended up reducing my stress level, which was really nice. So that's the end of May. June 1997, I'm there week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and I'm really okay with this. And my thinking process was that, okay, August, I'll go to Chubb Institute, which is the big IT school around here, and I'll somehow get money together to enroll in a class there, because I got to get into a career of some kind. And that was an obvious choice. That's where all the money was going, into IT, still is. So that was my plan. I just needed everything to level off for a while, and it was. And the end of June comes around. It's June 27th, which is a Friday. That's the fourth week in a row that I worked with Steve, and we both left 2:30 in the morning, said goodbye in the parking lot, have a good weekend, you know. And I'll see you Monday. I said that to him, and I remember he said, yeah, we'll see. I was like, what do you mean we'll see? Well, that Monday, I go into intermediate marketing after the Saturn job, and Steve's not there. And I go to the supervisor's desk, and I said, where's Steve? Did he call out sick? And they said, no, he left the company, and he's not coming back. I knew immediately that he found something good. And here's the value of networking, folks. Get the numbers of people around you, phone numbers, contact information, because you never know where your break is going to come from. And I knew he found something really. He'd been there a year and a half at minimum wage, no benefits. And suddenly he's gone. He found something good. And so I said, can you give me his phone number? I owe him some money. I got to get in touch with him. They said, no, we can't give you any information about anybody that leaves here. And don't ask us again because it's illegal. Okay. I go to my desk. I get on the internet, try to find him. I can't find him. Now, what I should have done at that point was hire a private detective. I'm not kidding. That's how important this was to me. Because I knew he found something good. I just had no way of knowing what it was. I did the private detective thing, didn't enter my mind, and I just was hoping he'd come back and say goodbye, but he didn't. He didn't that night. So that was June 30th, 1997. That's a Monday. And then July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, the 3rd being a Thursday, July 3rd, and he didn't come back to say goodbye to me, because we got a pretty good thing going, like, you know, kind of a friendship going. He just cut out. So, and the next day was July 4th. I had a 3-day weekend, and I just gave up. I said, okay, he's gone. I'm done. Screw him. That son of a bitch. I mean, why couldn't he just say goodbye to me, you know? But I said, forget it. You know, I'm sticking with my plan with Chubb Institute. So the July 4th weekend, and that Monday, it's July 7th. And I do the Saturn job. I go into the intermediate marketing telecom job again. It's a long-ass day. It's like 16 hours, you know, or more. I go into the IMM office to do my telemarketing job, and I look, and there's Steve. There he is, talking to a supervisor. So I'm going in at 7 o'clock at night, and I see him talking to a supervisor, you know, at the supervisor's desk. And instinct takes over. I knew exactly what I was going to do. In a flash, in the length of time it takes for a thought to occur, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I'm getting the information about where he went. I went right over to him, even though I'm supposed to sign on to my station I went right over to him. And I said, Steve. He goes, oh, hi, Jerry. And I said, Steve, you left without saying goodbye. They said that you left the company, you're not coming back. I couldn't get in touch with you. And now here you are. What's going on? He says, well, I wanted to, I start a new job on Thursday, so I got today, tomorrow, and Wednesday available, so I wanted to come in here and work before I started my new job on Thursday. In other words, he hadn't worked in a while and he needed some cash. Thank you, God. Or maybe he was out partying too much on the July 4th weekend and he ran out of money and he needed cash. He needed money, that's why he was there. Not for me. He needed money. So, I said, you start a new job on Thursday? I said, where? He says, Bell Atlantic. Bell Atlantic? Hired you? I didn't say that. I was thinking it though. And I knew instantly 3 things. Number 1, if they hired him, they'll hire me. Number 2, Bell Atlantic has more money than they can count. Like they hired tons of accountants just to count their money. They had a true monopoly, a real true monopoly. I think I went into that in another video. Anybody wants to hear more about that, let me know. But the Bell Atlantic had an absolutely true monopoly. And then number 3, I expected everybody that was sitting around where we were talking to jump out of their seats and get the same information I was there to get, because that's all anybody ever talked about there. Hey, QVC is hiring. They pay $8 an hour and they have more flexibility on their schedule. I never went into that because I just didn't feel like changing jobs again for 75 cents an hour. Nobody got up and asked any questions. Even the supervisor was sitting right there. They're making like $11 an hour compared to what I was going to make at Bell. Significant difference. So I asked him for a name and a contact number because I want to get an interview. And he goes, oh, I have that information with me. I'll bring it over to your desk in 15 minutes. I said, Steve, can you give it to me now? Because I'm thinking something's going to go wrong. I'm such a negative pessimist, you know. And he goes, Jerry, I promise you I'll be over at your desk in 15 minutes. And so I go to my desk and I decide not to log on because he's not leaving. Like, if I logged on and I was on a call with a customer and I looked up and I saw him walking out, I'd just walk away from the call because he's not leaving without giving me this information. That's a cool thing, man. When you know something clearly that you're going to do, and you're absolutely committed to that action, that activity. And he was not going to leave without telling me, or at least without giving me his phone number, so I can call him. So I go to my desk and I decide I'm just going to sit there and wait till he comes over. I'm twiddling a pencil, I'm shuffling papers, I'm hoping the supervisors don't give me a hard time for not logging on. And they didn't even bother me. They were pretty cool at IMM. Finally, after about 12, 13 minutes, he comes over with this tiny little piece of paper with a name and a phone number. He says, now, Jerry, if they hire you, when you go in for the interview, tell them that I sent you. Then if they hire you, I get $25. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you mother effing mercenary. You stinking mercenary. You didn't do any of this. I'm the one that's creating this whole thing. You're just giving me a name and a phone number. And I said, okay, Steve. I get the name and the phone number. I write it down on a second piece of paper, so I have two. Put one in my wallet, one in my pocket. And then I go to work. And 8:30 in the evening is when I take a break. I took a break at 8:30. I was looking for Steve. I asked the supervisor, oh, he left at 8 o'clock. And he didn't say anything to me. But I had the name and the phone number. So the next day is Tuesday, and I'm driving for Saturn, and I get the morning runs done, and I get back to the office, and I make this call, and immediately good stuff starts happening. This beautiful female voice answers the phone. Can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm calling Marietta Marquardt, and I need to talk to her about a account manager job. She goes, oh, just a moment. So then Marietta gets on the phone. That's the person, the HR person. And she says, how can I help you? And I said, my name's Jerry Byrne. I work with Steve Tudor at Intermedia Marketing in Westchester. And before I can say another word, she says, oh, we like people from IMM. I hadn't had a woman tell me that she liked me in like at least 2 years. I had no life. I was working all the time. Anyway, I said, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. I'm hoping that you'll consider me for a job like what Steve Tudor has. She says, oh, yeah, we'd like to talk to you. When can you come in? When can I come in? Tomorrow. And she goes, oh, what time tomorrow? I said, what time is good for you? Because I was going to get there regardless. She goes, well, I'm busy. If you want to come in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that'd be okay. And she gives me directions. I said, thank you. I hang up the phone, and I go to the service desk at Saturn, which is where the guy is that I reported to, Mike. Never had a problem with him. A good guy until this time. I tell him, I said, Mike, I got a personal matter I got to take care of tomorrow, and I got to leave at noon, and that's rock solid. That's unchangeable. I just wanted you to know. And he goes, oh, wait a minute. We hired you to take care of our customers till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, Mike, you're paying me minimum wage with no benefits. Okay, there's certain understandings that go along with that. Number one is when you're paying somebody minimum wage, they might have to do something else with their time, unfortunately. That's number one. Number two, for more than 6 months, or for 6 months now, I have not missed one day. I haven't missed one day. I don't get any sick time, obviously, but still, I haven't missed one day of this job. And now I'm asking just for 3 hours in the afternoon. Sorry, dude, that's got to work that way. He goes, oh, well, I guess we can find somebody else to drive for 3 hours. I said, yeah, you can. Anybody can do this job. There's a bunch of people sitting around here. He was having a bad day because Saturn never hit their numbers, and the general manager was giving everybody holy hell. And they're out of business now. They made a crummy product. But anyway, so that's good. And that night I go in and I see Steve. I say, hey, Steve, I'm going to go see Marietta tomorrow at Bell Atlantic. He goes, yeah. Like he gave a damn. So the next day, I leave at noon from Saturn, and I go into the interview with my resume. I've got my interview outfit on, Windsor knot tie and everything, and my resume. And I go in, and I see this pretty girl behind the receptionist desk who I would have a little bit of a fling with. Her name was Jen Beekman, and God bless you, Jen. You helped me kind of like get on my feet again as a person, and I really appreciate that. And rest in peace, darling. I miss you. And I loved you for a while. I miss you, though. I'll miss you forever. Yeah, that's Jen. And so she calls Marietta. Now I'm early. I'm like a half an hour early. I said, I apologize for being early, but if you could see if she's available, I'd appreciate it. So she comes right out, even though my appointment was at 3 o'clock. I was there like at 2:30. She goes, "Hi, Jerry." And I said, "Hi, Marietta. How you doing?" And I'm thinking we're going to. She said, "I'll go to her office," but then she says, "Let me walk you around the call center." I go in the call center with her, and she takes me to this account manager's desk, and his name is Dan Horninger, and he has this beautiful big color monitor. He has his own work area. It's a cubicle, but it's his own work area, you know, and it's his, and it's spacious. Intermedia marketing, you were like in a feeding stall in a barn. I mean, if you put your elbow out either way, you're going to be goosing the person next to you. Here, man, they have this huge, beautiful screen. Anyway, I was impressed by the facility and the resources this guy had at his disposal. And so we went back to her. Well, one thing, he had the he had the Bell Atlantic logo on his as a screensaver, you know, as a wallpaper on his screen. It was gorgeous, and I just got this insatiable desire to work there. And I said a silent prayer in my head to God: God, please let me work here, please. So we go back to her office, and she explains to me, we're hiring people, but you're not, if you're hired here, you're not working for Bell Atlantic, you work for Telespectrum, and we work for Bell Atlantic. And that's because Bell Atlantic couldn't get this done. Like, they really stumbled trying to get this done because of the Telecom Act of 1996 deregulating their monopoly, which was like they were having a panic attack about that. So I said, "Oh, so I'm working for Telespectrum." She goes, "You're working for Telespectrum, but you would be officially representing Bell Atlantic with a Bell Atlantic email address, you know, and a Bell Atlantic business card." And I was like, "Whoa, cool. That Bell Atlantic logo was gorgeous. It was the wave and everything." So we talk, and I tell her about my business, the commercial clients that I had, you know, the weddings that I'd done, and then suddenly, you know, after about 8 minutes, suddenly she says, "Okay, we're going to have a role play for you. And I'm going to call you at your home tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Would you be available for that?" And I said, "I will be available for that." And then she says, "Okay, I'm going to pretend to be one of your business accounts," because this was strictly small and medium business contact channel that they set up. Outbound. So these are our customers. I'm not calling somebody sitting down to their dinner in a residential account to bother them about, you know, spending $5 or $10 extra. I'm contacting business accounts. That's a beautiful thing. And she says, "I'm going to pretend to be one of your business accounts, and you need to get these 4 pieces of information." She put it in front of me. "You need to just, you know, identify me as a decision maker, find out the nature of my business, find out." There was like 2 other things. It could have been like find out who their internet provider is, and find out. How many employees they have or how many locations, you know, that kind of stuff. But there were 4 things. And she said, "You need to get these 4 things on this call, okay? There's no give or take about that, and I'll be on the call. So you be sure you ask me." She was telling me how to succeed on this call. But I was still uptight about it because I just kept on thinking after the debacle on the videographer job, I was thinking something's got to go wrong. And I said, "Okay, thank you." And I go home and I study this stuff, and then I go into intermedia marketing that night. I was going to, you know, ask Steve about because he starts the next day on his new job, and I go in and he's not there, and the supervisor says, "Yeah, he didn't show up today. He's done." So imagine this, how small that window of opportunity was that I had to connect with Steve. It's remarkable when you think about it. You know, it's a tiny little window of opportunity. I don't know, about that big. And so I said, "Okay, you know." So I go in. Well, I'm at intermedia marketing, and I tell them, I said, I can't come in tomorrow night. And they said, I was thinking they might give me a hard time, but they didn't, because they understood the minimum wage arrangement. And I said, and they said, "Okay, no problem. Are you gonna come in Friday?" And I said, "I should be here Friday. If there's a problem with that, I'll let you know." And they said, "Okay." So I go home, I do the graveyard by myself. By the way, I'm on myself on the graveyard all the time now. And I didn't mind that either. It was very peaceful and serene. So the next day, I work at Saturn, and then I go home, and I'm studying this folder she gave me about the role play call. I do that from 3:30 to 6:30, then I take a half-hour break, and from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I'm going over this stuff, and 8 o'clock the phone rings, it's her. She said, hey, Jerry, how you doing? I said, okay. How you doing? Okay, you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. She says, ring, ring, hello. So she's answering the phone. She's my business account. And we went through the call, and when it was over, there was like a moment of silence, like 3 or 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds of silence, and I'm sitting on the edge of a cloud wondering if I'm going to go up or down. And she says, Jerry. And I said, yeah, I wasn't sure what you wanted me to do after that exactly. She goes, oh, no, that's okay. And she says, you did really well, and we'd like to hire you to start in the class on the 24th. I said, you're hiring me to start in the class on but immediately in my mind, I'm thinking, uh-oh, training, is it paid training, or am I going to have to figure out how to get through it, without getting paid, because I'm not going to turn this down. I said, well, Marietta, that's great. Thank you very much. But I have to ask you, is this paid training? And she goes, oh, yeah, it's paid training. We're going to pay you $12 an hour for 5 weeks of training. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you're going to pay me $12 an hour, which is like a 60% raise over minimum wage, to sit in a class and learn all kinds of really cool new stuff for 5 weeks? And I said, I didn't say that. I said, 5 weeks of paid training. And she goes, yeah. 5 weeks. And then she said, also, you get full medical benefits for you and your family starting on the 24th. Is this an amazing turnaround? And I'm just blown away by this. But then she adds, and you should be able to double that $12 an hour with our commission and bonus structure. By the time I hung up the phone, I literally was floating around the room. This room had high ceilings, and I was floating around, and then I looked out the window. So it's July. It's a little bit after 8 o'clock. So it's twilight. You can still see. I flew out the room, and I was looking at the trees. There was wind blowing through the trees, but I was empowered. I had powered flight. I flew through the trees. I flew around the sky, and I came back, and there I was back in there. It was an amazing, amazing moment in my life, and it was by God, for sure. Peace.